Hello everybody, and welcome back to Operation Logistics, where we just got our bottom toolbar mostly working. There is the small issue that when we click on a child that isn't a button in here, we click on the button. I'm wondering if maybe we could go into our actual menus here, like the image background of the menu, and turn off raycast target. I wonder if that would work. Let's see. That may or may not work. Hey, look at that. Excellent. Exactly what we were looking for. Okay. So let's go ahead and start implementing these actually doing something, but first, I don't like having the main camera have a white background. Let's go ahead and make that be black. And I don't think changing the alpha does anything, but let's change the alpha. Okay, so here we are in a position where we are basically ready to start doing this. And I would like to be able to pass in to the menu, which may or may not be hard-coded, what we're actually going to end up doing. So let's go ahead and go into our business here, and let's create a function here, and this will be public void. I don't want it to actually do anything, but public void, or rather, I don't want it to return anything. So public void on change interaction mode. Okay, and I do want to pass in a interaction mode new mode, and then interaction mode equals new mode for right now, and that's all we'll do. So then, if we come in here, we're going to have to go through each of these buttons one by one for right now, but that's okay. So for example, for the demolition button, we can go in and add another on-click, and this would be into scripts, business, on change business name. Oh, we can't. Really? It didn't give us an enum drop down there? Oh, it's not on change business name. What am I talking about? It is... it won't let us do that. So we're going to have to create a function for each of these, because on-change interaction mode isn't showing up because we have this that we're passing in. I was hoping that we could do it all on one go, but okay, this is fine. On enter destruction mode. Actually, I'm going to call this demolition mode. And then we're just going to say interaction mode equals interaction mode dot destruction. I mean, I want to rename that demolition. There we go. And then we can set this to be on enter demolition mode, and then I suppose it's fine because we can have it do various things based on what exactly it is supposed to be doing. So like it could play a sound on entering demolition mode, and we don't have to have a big messy switch statement or something. So I guess this is fine. This is perfectly fine. Now none of the other ones will directly enter a mode. And also, we want this to be able to exit demolition mode. So if interaction mode, or rather lowercase I, interaction mode equals interaction mode.demolition already, then we want to say interaction mode equals interaction mode.none. Like so. And that needs to be double equals. And then else interaction mode equals demolition. So now it'll be a toggle between interaction mode demolition and interaction mode none. So that's perfect. So public void on enter construction mode. And then the question is, what can we pass in here? I mean, we could pass in an int. I'm surprised we couldn't pass in an enum, though. It seems like we should be able to. Because an enum is essentially just an integer, just with a name. So we're able to see what it is a little bit easier than just saying interaction mode equals 0 makes... Like, interaction mode equals 1, or 2, interaction mode equals 2, makes a lot less sense than interaction mode equals interaction mode.demolition. Like, what is 2? But demolition makes sense. So on enter construction mode, I would love to pass in an enum here. Like, I would love to pass in what building are we constructing. Like, I would absolutely adore it if I could do buildings to construct. But we're not going to be able to choose this. Like, if we go into our construction button, and then go to our construction menu, and then our delivery building menu and our postal office button, it's obviously not going to allow us to do scripts, business, on enter construction mode, and then pass in the enum. That's not going to be a thing. We could maybe do an int and then cast it, but that's going to be a lot less good. But I think if we have just these basic types, we can pass that in, right? Yeah, we can pass that in. So why can't we pass in an enum? Like, seriously. So Unity, I'm looking this up. Unity on-click pass enum. Like, that's all I want to do. Ability to add enum argument to button functions. Yeah, from 2014. Until then, having a string or int version of the function that then calls the enum version of it would be a usable workaround. Yeah... They haven't implemented it yet, but it's on the list, apparently. So yeah, I mean, it's not as safe, but we could pass in a string, and then parse the string. But again, there you have typos, and I would rather just have the drop-down. It would make a lot of sense to be able to do that. Oh well. So we'll go ahead and say something along the lines of, well, when do we exit construction mode? It's a good question. I don't know. I think for right now, we're going to make it a toggle. So if we are in construction mode, then it goes to none. Otherwise, it goes to construction mode. And then we'll need to convert this over to an enum, I guess? It'd be so much easier if we could do it the other way. It would just be straightforward and it would make sense. Just have a drop down here. Select what building you want to construct from pushing the button. Oh well. For right now, we'll make it not pass anything. And it'll just enter construction mode. Okay. The other thing it should do... Okay, business.onEnter construction mode. There we go. And I'm going to go ahead and actually select all of these constructions. I think I can do them all multi-editing, which would be really nice. So let's go ahead and do this. And do these all at the same time, because for right now, they're going to be doing the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this one, and then reselect all of these. We don't need to have these expanded, though. So just to make things a little bit easier, we'll do that. Okay. And then with all 15 of these selected, go ahead and add in 2 on-clicks. The first one will be to the scripts, and we're going to go ahead and do business.onEnter construction mode. The second will be to the construction menu, and this will be menu.toggleActive, and we just want to turn it off. So there we go. For right now, that'll be enough. We'll enter construction mode or exit construction mode on clicking on it. Now, if we click on a different one, that will also exit construction mode if we are in construction mode. So that's not ideal, but we can fix that once the buttons actually know what they're constructing, which they don't right now. So there's that. In the root button, we can go ahead and create 3 more functions down here. Public void on enter, and this will be the create root mode. And then public void on enter edit root mode. Public void on enter remove root mode. Whoops, there we go. Okay. And then public void on enter, and this will be on enter buy land mode. Public void on enter sell land mode. Okay, so there's all of those. And obviously they won't be fully implemented, but I'm just going to copy and paste this here so that it just toggles. And this will be create root. This will be edit root. Okay. Edit root. This will be remove root. There we go. This will be buy land. And then this will be sell land. Okay, so now we can actually change what mode we're in. It's not going to do anything, per se. So there's that. So, when we do things, like, most of these are only going to be active on the sub hex level. So we're going to have to zoom way in order to actually do anything, but that's fine. So I think... I mean, we're going to need to implement these one at a time. But the first one, I think, is buy land mode. And then the question is, how do we determine the pricing of the land? Based on the biome? Maybe. I think the biome makes the most sense. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and rename sub hex at this point to be building hex. There we go. And then I'm also going to rename sub hex to be biome hex. There we go. And I'm also going to rename base hex to be world hex. There we go. And now let's close this and rename the actual scripts so that it, you know, still works to some degree. I'm going to call this world hex. I'm going to call this one... Come on. Biome hex. And I'm going to call... Come on. There you go. I'm going to call this one building... Oops. Building hex. There we go. Now the question is, did we lose any information here? I don't think we did. No, I don't think we did. Let's check our base hex prefab here. Nah, we're good. Okay. Fantastic. So now we have kind of a weird hodgepodge of names, but we can go ahead and fire back up Visual Studio now that we're done messing around with the actual solution. So let's go ahead and do that. And the question then is, what do we implement next? Well, I think the first thing we're going to need to be able to do is buy land, right? So, I mean, really? Sub-hex? No, go away. We've got world hex. Yeah, this is fine. Sub-hex can go away as well. Okay, and we should have open, eventually, the world hex, and then the biome hex, and then also the building hex. Okay. So I think here we can just very simply do public bool player owned equals false. Okay, excellent. So if input is mouse button 0, then we're going to need to check our override. Now I don't think we have access to the manager here, or to the business rather. So let's go ahead and do private business. Then we'll say business equals game object dot find. We'll just call it scripts dot get component. Why am I even doing this? Game object dot get component, or rather find object of type business. There's only one, so there we go. We now have access to the business in the building hex. And then on mouse over, we can say if input dot get mouse button down 0. So if we mouse over it and we do the get mouse button down 0, so if we left click on it and cam.override camera. Oh, yeah, it's right down here. So if left click, do things. So at this point, we need to do something like a switch business dot interaction mode, and then case none, or rather case interaction mode dot none. Just return. That does nothing. Default, we just return and do nothing. If it's in an interaction mode we don't know about, well, it's not implemented. So we have our interaction mode dot none fully implemented. If we're not doing anything, great. Okay. So the question then is, we're going to need to be able to store player-owned hexes, because the player's going to modify them, and we're going to need to be able to regenerate them, right? So I think at this point, we need the world hex to be the one to store the buildings. That's going to be a relatively big project, though, and we're reaching the end of this episode and my recording session, so I would kind of like to not dive into that immediately, but we need to make buildings generate and store in world hex. I'll change that over right now, and that needs to be basically the next thing we do. Also, in our, well, we can do a little bit of prep work, because in our, where is it? X store, we can add in a public bool player owned. Okay, so we can set whether it's player owned or not. That's going to default to false. Okay, and then let's see. I mean, we're going to need a few more cases here. So let's go ahead and put in case interaction mode dot buy land. We're going to need to, for now, return, but I'm just going to do this in like kind of pseudocode commented out, and we're going to need to calculate the, this isn't even pseudocode, but calculate the value of the land, deduct the value from current costs, And we're going to need to have tooltips that modify based on the current mode and things like that. But for right now, this will be fine. So calculate the value of the land, deduct the value from current costs, set player owned to true, record in business, list of hexes owned, maybe? Okay, so that's essentially what we're going to be doing there. And then we'll do case interaction mode dot sell land, calculate the value of the land, deduct, or rather increase the current balance by value, maybe around 85% of the value, and then set player owned to false, remove from business list, something like that, and then return. Okay, so then case interaction mode dot construction. Well, that's kind of the complicated one. Get the building that we're constructing, deduct the cost of the building, and then at that point, well, first we would need to check that there's not already a building. Get the building that we're constructing, deduct the cost of the building, set this hex's building to the construction. And then that's basically it. Okay, so case interaction mode dot demolition. And what am I doing? This needs to have a colon here. Interaction mode dot demolition. Return. So check that this is player owned. And player owned for construction as well. Check that this is player owned. Deduct the destruction cost. Set this hex's building to none. Easy enough. Okay, case interaction mode dot, and this will be, I mean, essentially we just need to do the roots now. Create root. I have no idea. We'll figure that out later. Case interaction mode dot edit root. I have no idea. Return. Case interaction mode dot remove root. Again, we'll figure out exactly how the roots work later on. But for right now, that's essentially what we need to be doing. Now, it doesn't actually do any of it, obviously, but we will implement that later on. For that to happen, though, we absolutely need to do this. That's the next step, but it's a big project, and I don't want to get it started with 2 minutes left in this recording session. So I'm going to go ahead and put a cut in right here. It's a little bit on the early side, but that is fine. So I'm going to cut here, and next episode, we're going to make the buildings generate and store in the world hex, because we can't put that off any longer. See you all then.